The first thing I saw through my binoculars was a man standing inside a house that was supposed to be completely empty. The second thing I noticed was that he was staring directly at me. I was sitting in an unmarked SUV about 80 yards away, parked beneath a dead streetlight on a quiet residential road in Flagstaff, Arizona. It was 11:43 p.m. I'm a private investigator. Most of my jobs are pretty boring: insurance claims, missing property, cheating spouses, background checks. But this case started with a woman named Melissa, who hired me to watch her mother's old house. Her mother had died earlier that year, and the house had been empty ever since. Melissa told me something strange had been happening. Every few nights, lights appeared upstairs. Sometimes she heard footsteps when she checked the property remotely through a security camera. Twice, she had received motion alerts from inside the house. She thought someone was breaking in, so she hired me to watch the property overnight. At first, everything was completely normal. The neighborhood was quiet, a few cars passed occasionally, and the wind moved through the pine trees. Then, around midnight, I noticed a light turn on in an upstairs bedroom. I grabbed my binoculars and looked toward the window. The window was illuminated, and I could see the silhouette of a man standing inside. He wasn't moving, no phone, no flashlight, nothing in his hands. He was simply standing there, looking out into the darkness. Then his head slowly turned. He looked directly toward my SUV. I lowered the binoculars. My first thought was that I'd been spotted. I started the engine but didn't drive away. Instead, I called Melissa and asked, "Did your mother ever have anyone staying here?" She was quiet for several seconds before answering. "My mother's old caretaker did." I asked for his name. "Daniel," she said. Then her voice changed. "Daniel died 2 years ago." I looked back at the house. The upstairs light was still on, but the silhouette was gone. I waited several minutes, watching the window. Nothing moved. Then my phone buzzed. It was a security notification from the house. "Motion detected. Basement." I opened the camera feed. The basement camera showed an empty staircase. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then something moved at the bottom of the screen. A shadow. It crossed the camera slowly and disappeared behind a wall. I zoomed in, but there was nothing there. I decided to go inside. I know what you're thinking. This is where every horror story character makes a stupid decision. But as a private investigator, you learn that sometimes the worst thing you can do is ignore evidence. I grabbed my flashlight, camera, and handgun and walked toward the house. The front door was locked, but Melissa had given me a key. I unlocked it and stepped inside. The house smelled old and strangely damp. Everything inside was covered with white sheets, and the air was completely still. I walked through the living room and started toward the staircase. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. I stopped. The footsteps stopped too. I called out, "Police?" Nothing. I slowly started up the stairs. Halfway up, my flashlight caught something scratched into the wall. It said, "Don't look up." I froze. Then I heard breathing above me. Slow, heavy breathing, right over my head. I remembered the message, "Don't look up," so I didn't. Instead, I slowly backed down the stairs. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Melissa. "Are you inside?" I typed back, "Yes." "Why?" Her reply came almost immediately. "Because I'm watching your location. You're not inside the house." I stared at the message. Then I looked around. The staircase was still there. The living room was still there. My flashlight was still in my hand. I called her. She answered, and I could hear panic in her voice. "I'm looking at the security camera right now," she said. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. "Your SUV is still parked outside." I slowly looked toward the front window. I could see my SUV, but there was someone sitting in the driver's seat. I was inside the house, so who was sitting in my car? I slowly walked toward the window. The person inside my SUV raised one hand and waved. If you're enjoying this story, hit the like button and subscribe to Creepy Admin, because what happened next is the reason I never take another overnight surveillance job alone. I stepped away from the window. My phone buzzed again. This time, It was another notification from the house's security system. Motion detected. Upstairs bedroom. I looked toward the staircase. The light upstairs switched on. Then another notification appeared. Motion detected. Living room. I was standing in the living room. My phone buzzed again. Motion detected. Basement. And then I heard the basement door behind me slowly open. I turned around. The door was moving by itself, just a few inches. Then I heard a man's voice from downstairs.
Daniel here.
I ran. I didn't investigate. I didn't look downstairs. I sprinted through the front door and across the yard. When I reached my SUV, the driver's seat was empty. I got inside, locked every door, and immediately called Melissa. She told me to leave. I drove straight to a nearby gas station and stayed there until sunrise. The next morning, I returned with 2 deputies. The house was empty. There were no footprints, no broken locks, and no signs that anyone had been living there. But in the basement, we found something, an old surveillance monitor. It was still plugged in. On the screen was a live camera feed of the street outside, and there was my SUV, parked exactly where I'd left it the night before. But the timestamp on the recording was from 2 years earlier. The same date, the same street. And sitting in the driver's seat was a man who looked exactly like me. Melissa eventually sold the house. I never found out who or what I saw that night, but I still have one photograph from that case. It's a blurry picture I accidentally took through the upstairs window. The room was empty, except for a mirror. And in that mirror, I could see myself standing outside the house. Even though I was inside the house when the picture was taken, I quit overnight surveillance after that. Some cases are worth solving, others are better left unanswered.